Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Namaste and good evening, everybody. Wonderful to see you all. I can barely see you all. You can see me, but these lights. My pranams to revered Brahma Prana Mataji and a wonderful team for organizing this wonderful event. And so that's an early warning. So switch it off so that we don't have it coming on later on. Yes. Mataji has been organizing wonderful events like this. Actually, those who have been close to the center, you know how many different kinds of Vedanta related, spirituality related events she has organized over the years, decades actually. And this is one of that series. The subject, the meaning of life through the lens of Vedanta, is a very broad subject. So it gives me sort of free play. You know, I can say more or less whatever I want. Yes, Vedanta. Literally, the word Vedanta means the end of the Vedas, the final teachings, end in the sense not just the literal end of the Vedas, but also the final teachings, the highest spiritual teachings, highest philosophical teachings in the texts called the Vedas. When we were brahmacharis, novices, studying Vedanta, we had to memorize the definition of Vedanta. The definition of Vedanta in Sanskrit is Vedanta Nama Upanishad Pramanam. Vedanta is the source of spiritual knowledge called the Upanishads. So in these very ancient texts, the Vedas, which are probably the most ancient texts of the most ancient living religion in the world today, in those texts, you find the highest development of thought in the sense of the final philosophical and spiritual teachings and conclusions you find in these texts called the Upanishads. They're part of the Vedas, but they form the basis of what is today called Vedanta. But it's not just the Upanishads or the Vedas. Starting with the Upanishads, you come to a text which is probably much better known across the world, the Bhagavad Gita. If there is one text by which you want to identify Hinduism, it would be the Bhagavad Gita. It's the best candidate. But that's a text of Vedanta, and it's based on the Upanishads. A much lesser known text is a philosophical text called the Brahma Sutras. But it's not just Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutras, which are, traditionally, if you ask, what are the root texts of Vedanta? You'll immediately, the people will rattle off Upanishads, Brahma Sutras, Bhagavad Gita. But I want to emphasize it's not just that. It's not something that was written thousands and thousands of years ago, but an entire tradition which has developed and is continuing down strongly till today. So it's not just Upanishads, Gita, Brahma Sutras, but it's also the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. In fact, the Gita is a part of the Mahabharata. It's also the Puranas. It's also many Sanskrit texts which were written in the last 2 to 3 millennia. It is also many texts written in other Indian languages. Sort of Vedanta is the philosophical, the spiritual philosophy of Hinduism. Let's put it that way. It is as broad as that, as ancient as the Vedas, but coming down very strongly till the present age. Even now, texts are being written. Yes, Vivekananda lectured here through the length and breadth of America in English. And those books became, for example, Jnana Yoga. That's a book of Vedanta in English and in the 19th century. So this is the compass of Vedanta. All of Hinduism, whether textual or ritualistic or myth and legend stories, Or, when you go, Americans, when they go to the now many Hindu temples which have come up in this country, you are confronted with the bewildering and colorful variety of deities. But if one probes a little further, what's going on here? What's the thought behind it? What's the philosophy? What's the central teaching behind it? You will come across some brand of Vedanta, some philosophy, one of the schools, varieties of Vedanta. So Vedanta is vast. That's what I want to say. It's ancient, it's vast, textually rich, living, very much living, and across the length and breadth of India and Hinduism itself. Not just Hinduism, ancient Indian religions like Buddhism, Jainism, and even much later Sikhism. They all developed, they were influenced by Vedanta, and Vedanta was influenced by them. There was a long period of debate between the orthodox, so-called orthodox Hindu schools and the Buddhists, and both influenced each other. If you see the philosophical texts which come out of a period of nearly 1,000 years of debate between the Hindus and the Buddhists, you can clearly see their arguments are influencing each other. Attacks and counterattacks and refutations and counter-refutations, and each side improving their position, making their positions more sophisticated, until, remarkably, quite unintended, I'm sure, they begin to resemble mirror images of each other. So it's vast, it's across ancient, medieval, and modern Indian religion and culture and tradition. And now it's world culture, it's across the world. Here we are in Dallas. Vedanta starts with questions. The Upanishads start with questions. The Bhagavad Gita starts with questions. These texts are often teacher-student, teaching, learning, somebody asking questions to a master, to a wise person, to a teacher, and getting responses. And if you look at the questions are amazing questions. That's one of the best places to start Vedanta, is to look at the questions. What kicks off Vedanta? A philosopher, Professor Arindam Chakravarti, once said to me, Swami, stay with the question. And there was an eye-opener for me, because like most of us, when we come across Vedanta texts, Gita or the Upanishads, you come across these wonderful questions and you feel, yes, that's my question. I would like to know the answer. What's there after death and so on. And we jump ahead to the answer. And very natural. I used to do that too. But this philosopher said, stay with the questions, Swami. Let the questions marinate in you. Let it vibrate within us till it becomes our question. And when it becomes our question, and when the answers become even more impactful, they become even more transformative, insightful and transformative in our own lives. When it's our question. Questions like the little boy Nachiketa, dramatic stories. Sometimes these questions are set in dramatic stories. Sometimes they're just student, teacher. Sometimes they are just question and answer. You don't even know the name of the student or the teacher. The little boy Nachiketa goes to the house of death to ask about death in the Kathopanishad. And the little boy goes and meets the Lord of Death and says that, what's there beyond death? That's a question. It's a question for all of humanity. Wherever we are, in whichever time, in whichever civilization, whichever part of the world, it's a question, perennial question. What's there beyond death? And the little boy says, some people say there is nothing beyond death. Some say there is something beyond death. I would like to know. And you are the authority. You are death. So that's the dramatic situation in which it is, put. I can't resist telling this little joke. True story. It happened actually. It's a well-known piece of theater which is played out often in India. The dialogue between the Lord of Death, Yama, and the little boy Nachiketa. So I was teaching in this school as a novice monk about 30 years ago now. And the little boys there, they staged that play, the dialogue of Nachiketa and Yama, the little boy Nachiketa and the teacher, the Lord of Death. And they were not very professional. So they had forgotten to memorize the lines and they fumbled. But the audience was the teachers and their parents, of course, and they enjoyed every bit of it. And the boys were getting very, very conscious of their failings. There were disasters, like, there was a Swami who was guiding the play, and he said that in the most important verses, instead of the whole play was in Hindi, but in the most important verses, I will be backstage with my harmonium and I will sing it out in Sanskrit. It's all right. He told the boys, don't say anything, just stand there and I'm going to sing out the Sanskrit verses. And lo and behold, just when it came, the most important verses, where's the Swami? He's gone to take a washroom break at that time. And the Lord of Death and the little boy Nachiketa, they look here, and the whole audience dissolved in laughter. It was terrible. It was funny. It was cute. And I remember the Lord of Death says, I'll give you 3 boons. You can ask me for 3 boons. And the first boon and the second boon. And the third boon is, of course, those who know the story is the most important, because where he asks the question about death, and the whole teaching of Vedanta comes after that. So that's the most important part. And the third question, so when the third boon, when the time comes, the Lord of Death grandly says to the little boy, ask for your third boon. What do you want? And somebody in the audience said, say, I don't want anything. It'll be over. We'll be spared this. Just say, I don't want anything. Questions, remarkable questions. In the Mundaka Upanishad, the student, Shaunaka, goes to the teacher, a rishi called Angiras. Shaunako havai mahashalo angirasam vidhivadupasanna papracha. Shaunaka, who is a well-off person, a rich, pious, devout person, and he goes to the teacher, Angiras, and puts his question. He approaches him with all formality and puts the question. What's the question? Kasminnu bhagavo vigyate sarvamidam vigyatam bhavati iti. Sir, what is that one thing by knowing which everything is known? What is that one thing by knowing which everything is known? What an interesting question, and what a profound question. And naturally, we are eager to know, really? Is there something like that? That seems like a shortcut. I don't have to go to Ivy League colleges and sign up for this course and that course. And no, just I need to know only one thing. Similarly, in the Chandogya Upanishad, the student, and it's humorous also, the student is this, the son is the student, and the father has sent him off to school, and the boy graduates and comes back, and the father sees this boy has become arrogant. And the boy feels, I know all the latest stuff. You old man, you're outdated. And the father, to put him in his place, he asks him, son, did they teach you at school that by knowing which everything is? And the boy says, no, I don't think they knew anything like that. Why don't you teach me? And the commentator, Shankaracharya, humorously says that being afraid of being sent back to school again, so he tells his father, why don't you tell me what's that, by knowing which everything is known? In the Kena Upanishad, the very word, the name of the Upanishad is Kena Upanishad, but the word Kena means by what or by whom, by whom. And the verse or the mantra is a question. What a remarkable question. It goes like this. Keneshitam padati preshitam mana kena prana prathama preti yuktaha keneshitam vachamimam vadanti chakshu shrotram kaudeva yunakti. Don't be afraid, I'll translate everything. But I love the sounds and the cadences of the original Sanskrit. It's nice to hear that. Thousands of years ago, And I would do this when I first came to the United States. I came to California in our center in Vedanta Society of Southern California in Hollywood. In my classes, there would be this American gentleman. He would sit at the back, and if I spouted some Sanskrit without translation or adequate translation, he would wildly wave his hands like, too much Sanskrit, English, English. What a beautiful question. The question is, by what do I have this experience? What does this mind think? By what do I have the experience of thinking, of speaking, of seeing, of hearing? What bright being illumines my mind and the senses, all my activities? Basically, is asking, how do I have the experience of life itself? Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, enjoying, suffering, waking, dreaming, sleeping, all of what we call life. What bright being illumines all of this, reveals all of this, makes all of this possible? The question about what is consciousness? Thousands of years ago, until today we are asking. In fact, today we are asking in the redoubled force. In the last 20 to 30 years, consciousness studies has become big. It's hot now. If you Google hard problem of consciousness, and a lot of work is going on at the philosophical level, at the neuroscientific level, at the psychological level, at at the level of information technology, computer science, artificial intelligence. This question of what it means to be conscious is now equal to what it means to be human, and there is no easy answer today at the 21st century. And we look back, Professor Evan Thompson, University of British Columbia, he says in his book, Waking, Dreaming, Being, that this consciousness studies is not new. It's not new. It's not just we are doing it now in the 21st century. He says it started thousands of years ago on the plains, in the Indo-Gangetic plains, in the texts called the Upanishads. And he says the Upanishads are so important in human history that we should do well to date our history, human history, history of human civilization, as before Upanishad and after Upanishad. He says this. That is the source of Vedanta, question about what is consciousness? What is existence? What constitutes, what is the point of life? What is there after death? All the big questions about life, all the most profound questions, they asked. And we are asking, but they found the answers, but each generation has to rediscover it for themselves. That's why Vedanta is also ever new. It's not just the rishis, the masters thousands of years ago, but also down the centuries, down the millennia till today. Again, in this day and age, it's an entirely new age, a brave new world. We are living in it. So we must answer these questions, look back to the past, but also look at the world we live in. Somebody asked me, why talk about Vedanta and science? Vedanta is complete in itself. It's a way of leading you to enlightenment and freedom and peace and bliss. So forget about science. I'd say no. Two reasons. One is, this is the world we live in. We can't ignore it. We have all been brought up, we have been educated in the scientific worldview from our school and college days. That's how we think. So if you have to understand Vedanta, we must be able to relate it to modern scientific understanding of the world and ourselves. That's one. Second, I say to those people who are not interested in the scientific side of it, I say, look at the masters of Vedanta, whether it is Shankara or Vivekananda today, Vidyaranya Swami about 600 years ago. If you read their writings, if you get an idea of their mind, would these people have not been interested in modern science? They would have been interested. Their minds were always open to new points of view, new ways of reaching the truth. So yes, Vedanta is living, open, asking these questions, and these questions remain our questions. Who am I? In fact, that reminds me, Oxford University Press has, a few years back, they released the 5 great unsolved questions of philosophy. And those who have studied philosophy, they know all questions in philosophy are unsolved. That's the nature of philosophy. What Plato, Aristotle, and Gautama Muni, and Mahavira and Buddha were thinking about, we're thinking about it today also. But it's interesting to see, according to Oxford University Press, according to them, what are the 5 great unsolved questions in philosophy today? And you will see, I was amazed to see out of those 5, 4 were related to consciousness. What were the questions? As far as I remember, one question was, what is free will? That's sort of related to consciousness. Second question was, what is knowledge? Is it possible to know anything at all? A question about skepticism. So again, related to consciousness. Third question, straight away, who am I? What am I? What are we actually? So related to consciousness directly. Fourth question was, what is death? Not in a physiological sense, which doctors will tell you, but death for us as the self, as this living person, as a sentient being. What would it be to die? So again, a question related to consciousness. And the last question was about justice, so sort of not directly related to consciousness. But what I want to say is that, look, today, Oxford University Press, if you Google it, these are the 4 out of the 5 top questions directly related to consciousness. And Vedanta has been asking these questions since ancient times. You will be like, okay, I got it. Move on to the answers. We want to know the answers. Yes, I also want to dwell on the answer. They found amazing answers, stunning answers. The sheer vastness of their thought is stunning even now. I asked a person who you would not think of in this context of Vedanta and Hinduism and all, but one of the brilliant minds of our time. I said to Professor Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak in Columbia University, over a cup of coffee, I said, we're talking about the vastness of thought of these ancient seers in the Upanishads. I said, doesn't it strike you that today we are puny compared to them? Thousands of years ago, a much more primitive world. And today we are living in this amazing world of technology and science, a connected globe. And yet our thinking, the range of our wisdom, our vision, our thinking, it seems very small. They seem to be like giants. And she said, absolutely, there's no doubt about it. We have become stunted, a sort of damaged kind of psyche today. Whereas their thought was amazing. What was the answer? What answer did they find? They found an answer. The name they gave was the vast. Look at the answer. They didn't say God. That's a later thing. It comes in later. But the vast. In Sanskrit, Brahman. Brahman, the etymology and the sense in which they used it is the vast. The words they used in the Upanishad, very interesting. That. How impersonal. That. Tat. Sat. Being. Existence. So what is this Brahman? The formulation of the answer they found, the ultimate reality, the big answer to these very big questions. Sat-Chit-Ananda. Existence, consciousness, bliss. Or as Vivekananda put it, existence absolute, consciousness absolute, and bliss absolute. What is this Sat-Chit-Ananda? What is existence? What is consciousness? And what is bliss? It struck me just one year ago, something that was staring at my face for the last 30, 40 years. Even before becoming a monk, I was interested in Vedanta. Even as a kid, I used to read Vivekananda's books. It had been staring at me, but I saw it just maybe last year. These 3, Sat, Chit, Ananda, are the answers to the greatest questions in philosophy. There are 3 branches of philosophy, broadly speaking. One branch deals with reality. What is real? What exists? Does matter exist? Does mind exist? Does God exist? Heaven exist? Energy? Harry Potter? What exists? Yeah, even Harry Potter, you have to give it some degree of existence, maybe a fictional existence, but there's something, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. How can you say it doesn't exist? So you have to say it's a fictional entity, but it exists in some sense. A number, 1 or pi, it exists in some sense. So what is existence? So this is a big question. And the next question, whatever you say, if you think about it, philosophers you'll immediately come to the next question. How do you know? How do you know? God, if you say, yeah, I say God exists, immediately we would like to know, how did you know? What is the source of your knowledge? So question about knowledge, the question about existence, question about reality, what kinds of things exist. In philosophy, this is called metaphysics, and a more modern name is ontology. Ontos means existence, being. And if you ask the question, how do you know these things? How do you know anything at all? We must justify our claims. So how do you know anything? The branch of that branch of philosophy is called epistemology, the study of knowledge. How we know what is knowledge, how we know, etc. And there is a third branch of philosophy which deals with diverse related subjects like ethics, what is right, what is wrong, ethics and morality, but also beauty, what aesthetics. So all of these ethics, aesthetics, values, basically moral values, aesthetic values, meaning, all of these can be clubbed together. There's a name for it. Even philosophers are not familiar with that name. It's not very much used. Axiology, the study of values, moral value, uh, aesthetic values, question of meaning. Today's subject, what is the meaning of life according to Vedanta? So that would fall in the third category, axiology, the study of values. Now, why am I saying all this? Three broad branches of philosophy, three great questions in philosophy, broad areas: reality, ontology; knowledge, epistemology; value, goodness, beauty, meaning, axiology. Now look at the answer that Vedanta found thousands of years ago and all down the centuries and millennia. This Brahman, what is it? Sat, Chit, Ananda. Existence, consciousness, bliss. Now do you see the mapping of the three questions with the three answers, with the three terms? What is real? What is real? What exists? And they found that existence itself is the ultimate reality. This is one might be surprised. It's not the way people normally think. Vedanta is very stunning. The way they think is very different from the way we are normally accustomed to think. It's full of surprises and very interesting answers. Existence itself. People have never asked this question, or they have, but rarely, because it's a very difficult question. We can ask, does God exist? I can say God exists. Some can say, be an agnostic or an atheist and say God does not exist. What is matter? Is it atoms or is it superstrings? Or all of these are questions about existing things. But can't we ask, what is existence itself? Some philosophers have asked. In ancient Greece, very few. In ancient India, many more. In our modern times, philosophers like Heidegger, for example, and some of the European philosophers have asked this question: what is existence itself? Heidegger, the German philosopher, he was a Nazi, by the way, which goes to show that you can be a brilliant philosopher and not a very good person also. It's possible. But very interesting. You can be a brilliant philosopher and not a very good person, but you can't be a deeply spiritual person and not a good person. That's not possible. Yeah. So goodness first and then spirituality. Goodness before godliness. Anyway, but I'm going to quote Heidegger here. He has these beautiful questions, insightful questions about existence. He says this question, what is existence? He says it is the broadest question, the deepest question, and the most fundamental question. Broadest, deepest, most fundamental. What does it mean? If you ask a question about tables, furniture, so it's a question about furniture, various kinds of furniture. But it's not a question about carpets. It's not a question about living beings. If you ask a question about human beings, that's about human psychology, human physiology. But it's not about dogs and cats. If you ask a question about animals, that's much broader, includes human beings, dogs, cats, other animals, but doesn't include tables and carpets. If you ask a question about the broadest question about existing things, whatever exists, then it's the broadest question because it includes everything. Nothing is left out. If you ask what is existence, it's the broadest question. We see, somebody might be extra clever here and say, but you have left out non-existence. Well, you don't have to ask a question about non-existence because non-existence does not exist. You can leave it out safely. The broadest question has to be a question about existence. What exists? What is existence? It's the broadest question. And then Heidegger says it's the deepest question. Why deepest? Look at science. If you are studying physiology, well, deeper than physiology is biology, because your physiology is based on biology. A doctor has to study biology. Without that, you can't have medicine. The other way is not true. A biologist need not study medicine. But biology is a deeper, more fundamental science than medicine. Deeper and more fundamental than biology is chemistry, out of which our living bodies are made. The various kinds of elements and compounds and so on. Deeper than chemistry is physics, the very nature of matter and energy. But what is deeper than that? What is more fundamental and deeper than that? Existence. So existence, when you ask a question about existence, it's the deepest possible question you can ask. And it's also the most fundamental question, Heidegger says. Why? It's also a question about itself. The deepest, most profound questions are questions also reflexive. When you say, what is existence? That question, the one who's asking the question, and the question itself, it also exists. So it is included within the question. When you ask, what is a phone? I am not a phone. I will investigate what is a phone. But when I ask, what is existence? I am included in that existence also. So the question is reflexive. It turns back upon itself. Anyway, just to point out the beauty of this question, the depth, the vastness, the profoundness. Someone might say, oh, this is very abstract. Is it? Is it? It is about it's the most real thing one can have. Existence is the most real thing. Here we are. What is this existence? Vedanta says that, notice, they bring this to our notice. We are in an ocean of existence. We think right now, for example, right here, what's here? If you take an inventory, well, there are people here, and there are chairs here, and there is a stage here, and there are pictures, and there are lights and electrical connectivity, and an orange guy giving a talk. This is what is the list. And yet, Vedanta says, notice something common to all of it. The people exist. The chairs exist. The hall exists. The pictures exist. The orange guy exists. And even the empty space exists. And we don't pay any attention to that. But Vedanta draws our attention and says, can we conceive of existence as the reality? And all existing things as manifestations of that reality? Can we conceive of like waves in the ocean? What is greater, waves or ocean? Say ocean. What is greater, waves, ocean, or water? You say water. Because the existence of the ocean, the existence of all the waves depends on water. Water can exist without being waves or ocean. It exists in that bottle. So water is a more fundamental reality than waves or ocean. Exactly like that. What is the water out of which this ocean of existence we are surrounded with? It is existence itself. Vedanta conceives of existence as the most fundamental reality, and all existing things as waves in that ocean of existence. I was just watching the nice slideshow that they have put up here, and there's a quote from Sri Ramakrishna. And if you notice, if you read the quote, Sri Ramakrishna says, it has been revealed to me there's an ocean of consciousness. And all things that exist, they are waves in this ocean of consciousness. They arise and then merge back into the ocean of consciousness. And then he says, I have seen these things. So it's a direct experience. The entire universe is an ocean of existence, and everything in it, all beings small and large, living and non-living, and from the brightest quasars in the sky to the invisible quarks, they are all waves in an ocean of existence, as are we. All of this, our bodies, our minds, and goes further. The So this is the answer to the question, big question, what is reality? Answer from Vedanta is Sat, existence. The second question, how is knowledge possible? And look at Vedanta's answer, Chit, pure consciousness. Vedanta is, in fact, one way you can say it is the science of consciousness. What is consciousness? And what is the self? What are we? And Vedanta does this whole investigation and comes to the realization, we are consciousness. We are beings of light. I love that saying. It's not that we are human beings in search of a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. We are, according to Vedanta, we are beings of light and reality. Chit, Sat, consciousness, existence. Having a human experience right now. Immortal beings of light appearing in this body and mind and experiencing the world. That is Chit, consciousness. And then, very pertinent to our subject today, Ananda. What's the point of it all? The third branch of philosophy. What is good? What is beautiful? What is the point of it all? What is the meaning of it? Is there any point to in this entire universe? Is there any point to our little lives? I saw the question which was written in the slide that our brief and what was it? Brief and flickering life or something like that. Fleeting, yes, fleeting lives. Vedanta gives the answer. Our lives are not brief. Our lives are not fleeting. In fact, you are immortal. Bodies may come and go. Personalities may arise and fall. You, the immortal existence consciousness, you continue. Lifetimes and lifetimes have gone and come and gone. And they will continue as long as you want. Vedanta says, Vidyaranya is Panchadashi, universes arise and set, but you are that one consciousness, that one sun of that consciousness, the shining light which neither rises nor sets. You are this immortal light. What a grand, grand vision of the human self, of ourselves. So the answer from Vedanta, what's the meaning of life? What's the point of it all? Ananda. What a beautiful answer. Bliss. Bliss is the point of it all. Joy, happiness, fulfillment, whatever we are seeking in life, Vedanta gives a positive answer. Yes, you are right. When you are seeking, you're seeking happiness, you're seeking fulfillment, you are oriented rightly, you're seeking for the right thing, except that we are seeking it unwisely now. Vedanta shows us a wise way. Vedanta, we are seeking it in the wrong place. Vedanta shows us where you can find it. Where can you find it? In ourselves. We are looking at it outside ourselves. There was a Swami who visited New York recently, last week. He is well known as the smiling Swami, ever happy Swami. And he made a very nice comment. He said, everybody is seeking happiness, but have you ever thought, who seeks happiness? Who seeks food? When you are full, do you seek food? No. It's the hungry person who seeks food. It is the thirsty person who seeks drink. It is the unhappy person who seeks happiness. It will be, okay, so we have made up our minds, we are unhappy. And therefore, I am not going to seek happiness I'm obviously unhappy, so I'll seek it outside. Big mistake. This is the big joke that the universe has played on us. Happiness is possible. Fulfillment is possible. Ananda, bliss is possible. It is there, already there, but we are looking in the wrong place. We've been tricked into looking outside ourselves, elsewhere. And wild goose chase across lifetimes ensues. So grand idea of ultimate reality. Just think already what ground we have covered. Sat, Chit, Ananda. The greatest, the deepest, most profound questions raised by humanity. This is the answer that Vedanta got thousands of years ago. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Existence, consciousness, bliss. People are taking note. There's a book, The Experience of God as Being, Consciousness, Bliss, written by David Bentley Hart. He's a leading Christian theologian in America. I've never met him, but I read the book. And the book is actually a reply to atheists. You know, atheists like Daniel Dennett, Christopher Hitchens, who have passed, the famous militant atheists of our age, Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins. Those who attack, whether God exists or not, they attack. There's no God, religion is all false. So it's a reply to them. It's a reply to the atheists from this theologian, David Bentley Hart. Why am I bringing it up? If you look at that book, if you look at the chapters, he introduces it. He says, when you debate religion, you should come to the experts. Don't go to kids. If you want to debate science, will you ask a school kid or will you go to a scientist? So when you are debating religion, whether God exists or not, please look for the most sophisticated, deepest, profound understanding of God that these religions have developed. What is that? What is that? If you look at the chapters in his book, the names of the chapters, I kid you not, the names of the chapters, Sat-Chit-Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. He says, Hinduism, Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, Judaism, all the major world religions, they came to this answer in different ways. But it is, he says, he also adds there, it is most clear and most mainstream and most obvious in the ancient Hindu Vedanta. This understanding of the ultimate reality as Sat, Chit, Ananda. The names of his chapters in that book. When Vedanta says, Sat, Chit, Ananda are not three different things, three different branches of philosophy. No, 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 no. Vedanta's, the next amazing claim of Vedanta is, it is one reality. It is the ultimate reality. It is also the ever-shining reality, the light of all lights, consciousness. It is also the locus of meaning. This is why we are meaning-seeking creatures, because our real nature is meaning. So this is the next claim. Sat, Chit and Ananda are real. It is there. And they are not three things. They are not even three things in one. It is one reality. It is itself limitless existence, itself limitless consciousness, and itself limitless meaning, bliss. Next, even more, maybe the grandest claim of Vedanta, the grandest discovery of Vedanta. This Sat, Chit, Ananda. It sounds a little theoretical and sounds a little abstract, sounds very grand, but what is it? Where is it? Where is this Sat-Chit-Ananda? I can see people, I can see tables and chairs, I can see the world, I can experience my own thoughts, but where is this Sat-Chit-Ananda? Absolute existence, absolute consciousness, absolute bliss. Where? It just sounds like words. And here is Vedanta's most grand teaching. Stunning, again, very stunning teaching. It says, you are that. What is Sat-Chit-Ananda? Where is it? It's you. If only you knew yourself as you are. I'm quoting Vivekananda here. More than 100 years ago, speaking to some American women who had come to be his students, they write later that he looked at us with a touch of pathos and he said, if only you knew yourself as you truly are. What are we truly? You are that. The whole of Vedanta can be compressed into a short sentence. Tat Tvam Asi, that you are. It is the same story of the father talking to the arrogant boy, whom he asked, did your teachers teach you that by knowing which everything is known? And the boy said, no, why don't you teach me? Chandogya Upanishad, 6th chapter. And then the father starts teaching him about Sat, existence. There was this primordial existence before all things came into existence. And then just as from clay, all kinds of pottery has emerged, just as from gold, all golden ornaments have come. So like this, he gives examples. From iron, all iron implements have come. Similarly, there is one reality from which the entire universe, everything has come. And that is that Sat, pure being or pure existence. Now imagine, he's talking to a teenager. I'm sure teenagers would have been the same that time also, 5,000 years ago, who's not very interested in all this. You can imagine that ancient teenager giving a very teenage shrug. Okay. Maybe, who knows? Then his father tells him something even a teenager cannot ignore. That Sat, that ultimate reality of the universe, Tattvamasi Shvetaketu, you are that. 9 times in that 6th chapter of the Chandogya Upanishad, the teacher hammers it into the student. Tattvamasi, Tattvamasi, you are that, you are that. These sentences from the Upanishads have come to be termed Mahavakya, the great, profound utterances, profound sentences. It's one of the elegant things about Vedanta, I think, that it can, the whole thing can be expressed very simply. A scientist recently told me that in science, Swami, one of the hallmarks of truth is simplicity. If your theory, if your theory, your paper is bulky and complicated, it's not working too well, you haven't got it right. The best truths, the best discoveries, the best papers are always elegant and simple. Look at the formulation. You are that. Vedanta can be expressed in one sentence. All of Vedanta, thousands of years of Vedanta, all these books. Tat Tvam Asi. That Brahman, that Sat-Chit-Ananda, that most profound answer to the greatest profound questions of ontology, epistemology, axiology. That answer, Sat-Chit-Ananda, is you. Tattvamasi. You are that. And other sentences also in the Upanishads. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. But of course, the real I, the real you. Prajnanam Brahma. Consciousness is the ultimate reality. Ayam Atma Brahma. This very self is the vast, is the limitless. See how far we have come from the question, our brief and fleeting lives. No. The entire universe is brief and fleeting compared to you, the real you. Universes may arise and disappear. In fact, that's the claim of Vedanta. Universes have arrived and arisen and disappeared. You are. You're still there. You're still there. Story time. I was present for this. There was this Swami from whom we were learning Vedanta, traditional wandering monk. He has passed away now. I can take his name, Ramananda Saraswati. And this was in Kankhal, which is a part of the city of Haridwar in the foothills of the Himalayas. So in an ashram, a Q&A was going on. And the Swami, who was the teacher, he had just recovered. He had just been released after a major operation. He was ailing at that time. So he came out to give the Q&A. And I remember he came, he's wearing a dhoti and a cloth around his bare upper body. Came and sat down there and started speaking. Obviously, there was some pain or discomfort. His whole body became covered in a sheen of sweat. And the rest of us, they all said, it's all right, Swami, you should go and take rest. Clearly, you have Hindi, pet mein dard ho raha hai. You've got pain in your stomach in the operation. The Swami said, listen to a story. So here is a story. The story is that there was this old lady in a little village long time ago, and she had a vegetable patch, and she used to protect it from birds which would come to eat the vegetables, the fruits. And she had this old box which she would bang. Now, this is told to us in Hindi. Those are from India, of a particular generation, not Indians today. They will recall dalda ka tin. So a tin box like that. So she had an old tin box like that, and which she would bang and drive away the birds. Now, a camel, so this must have been somewhere near Rajasthan. A camel came and started chewing the vegetables. And the old lady came out and tried to shoo away the camel and bang the tin box. And the camel, of course, the camel could speak. So the camel said to that old lady, I'll tell you the original Hindi later, but first the English, that, old woman, do you think I'm going to be scared of that? I was a war camel and war drums were played on my back and I was not scared of that. And he said, I'm going to be scared of this. In Hindi, I still remember the Swami said, or main tera tina se darunga. Sort of rustic Hindi. कितने ही युद्ध के नगाड़े बज चुके हैं मेरे पीठ पर, मैं नहीं डरा, तेरा टीना से डरूंगा बुढ़िया. Then the Swami looked at us. Universes have risen and fallen on my back. Will I be afraid of a little stomach ache? No, we will have the Q&A. And we had it. So this is a manifestation of that knowledge, walking the talk. Tattvamasi, you are that. Then what do we do about it? You have to realize it. You have to make it a reality. What a tremendous statement. Tattvamasi. 'You are that, that you are.' 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 'You are This can be shocking when what Vedanta is claiming. If I tell you, I heard this from a senior monk who heard it from a very great monk, Swami Sarvapriyananda, who was a disciple of Ma Sharada there, who was regarded, that old Swami Sarvapriyananda was regarded as an enlightened person in his lifetime. So this monk who told me, he's elderly now, but when he was a student, before he became a monk, he used to visit that old Swami. And one day he said, when I went and bowed down before him, the Swami, he was old and ill, with a trembling finger, he touched me like this, and I jerked back. I was startled. And that old Swami, Sarvapriyananda, he said, there, that one which got startled. Other than that, there is no rascal called God. In Bengali. ওই যে চমকে গেল ও ছাড়া কোনো শালা ভগবান নেই। So what does that mean? Tattvamasi. The real you, not this person. It doesn't mean this person. But in that person, the core of that person, the essence of that person, what is appearing as that person, that reality behind the mask of the person, that reality and what we call God in religion are one and the same. Tattvamasi means you are that. It means this. You are nothing but Tat, that, God. I'm using the term generally. Brahman, Sat-Chit-Ananda. You are nothing but Sat-Chit-Ananda. That means you're not the body. You're not the mind. You're not even this temporary personality which you are wearing as a mask right now. The word personality itself means mask, by the way. I was surprised and happy to discover, if you look at it etymologically, where the word personality comes from, persona, mask. In ancient Greek theater, they used to hold these big masks, and there would be big holes in there. The actors could shout out their lines. So persona is a mask with a hole. Sona means sound. And then the word personality. Personality means mask. It's funny when you read about personality development camps. So it's a mask development camp. You are nothing other than Sat-Chit-Ananda. That means you are being consciousness bliss, which means you are not the body, not the mind, not the person you think you are. And the other way around, Sat-Chit-Ananda is nothing but you. What a stunning statement. Even that we can ask, we are used to hearing, and not the body, not the mind, and the witness consciousness. I sort of get it, okay. But the other way around, there is no God but you, the real you. You are nothing but God. Tvam tattasi. You are that. And that God is nothing but you. This is the message, the extremely radical message being given by Vedanta. Vivekananda put it this way when he came to America. He said, Americans can understand it best because Vedanta is the only, one and only democratic religion in the world. He put it this way. His Highness the King, God, has been dismissed. Where does he exist now? He exists in each one of us now. That is the idea of going from royalty to democracy. And he says to Americans more than 100 years ago, why is this country so mighty? Why is it so great? It is because the country exists in each one of us, in all of us. That's the power of a democracy. Instead of concentrating all power, authority, glory, grandeur in one person and expecting that one being elevating that person and expecting to be surround that person and to that person will lead and sustain and give direction to our nation. No, all of us will do it because you have, the government exists in all of you. He says the democratic religion is Vedanta. In fact, he said, Vivekananda, he said, I doubt in Vedanta in India has been practiced by groups, by individuals, monks, scholars sometimes, but the masses have not lived Vedanta, the non-dual Vedanta, I mean Advaita Vedanta. Of course, there's been a religion of the masses. Because of the extreme hierarchy in Indian society. And he says, I have greater hopes of America, where it's a society of equals. And the Vedanta can be easily absorbed in America, that we are all that one spiritual being. How do you realize it? Tattvamasi. How elegant. You are that. Aham Brahmasmi. I am the infinite. This very self is the infinite. How do you realize it? There comes Vivekananda brings in the yogas, his famous classification of the 4 yogas. Now, what I'm saying till now is primarily Advaita Vedanta, non-dual Vedanta, and it has its unique method. It is the way of inquiry. Very unique method. In the Q&A, we'll talk about it hopefully. We have heard of devotion, love, surrender, faith in God. We have even heard of meditation. But very few people understand what is the method of inquiry. Nowadays, people are talking about it more than a little more. Self-inquiry. If I am Brahman, if I am limitless existence consciousness, I should be able to experience it. I should be able to appreciate it. Just as right now I can see that I am a body and I have a mind, why can I not see that I am immortal existence consciousness? And Vedanta says you can come to see it and you must come to see it. How do you come to see it? By inquiry. Inquiry means inquiry into who am I? Distinct methods are there. Wonderful methods have been developed. Unique. The method of the seer and the seen, Drigdrishya Viveka. The method of the 5 layers of the human personality, Panchakosha Viveka. The method of these 3 states, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, Avastatraya Vichara. And multiple methods based on the Upanishads, and masters through the centuries have generated, found out these paths by which we can inquire and come to that. Another way was the way of yoga. So when Vivekananda speaks about Vedanta in America, he's not narrowing it only to non-dual or Advaita Vedanta. He says Vedanta is also Vishishta Advaita Vedanta. Vedanta is also Dvaita Vedanta. Multiple schools of Vedanta. It is also yoga. In fact, the broad highway of spiritual realization developed in India from ancient times, all of that he gave a generic name of Vedanta. So yoga, another entirely different way, is by the control of the mind, by the settling down of the inner faculties in the silence of meditation, it becomes obvious that I am not the body, not the mind, not the mass, but the spiritual reality, the God behind the mass. That becomes reality, that becomes experienceable actually. So that is the way of meditation. And the more common, well-known way of devotion, bhakti. But in Vedanta, bhakti, the general devotion we are aware of is, yes, that I know. I believe in God. I go on Sunday to the temple or the church. That's one kind of religion. When I believe in God and my faith in God gives me some peace of mind, and I hope God will take care of me. But Vedanta is not that kind of bhakti. It is love of God, devotion to God, faith in God, like Ramakrishna for Kali, like Mirabai for Krishna, where my whole life is poured out in love, devotion. And Vivekananda says, when you give up all desires for the world, 100 desires of the world are replaced by one almighty love of God. That is bhakti. For what? For God, not for the world. I love God for the sake of God, not for getting the world. So that kind of faith in God. And Vivekananda, that's bhakti yoga. And Vivekananda also taught, especially he says for this day and age in this country, America, he says more than 100 years ago, how to transform our daily lives, especially our work lives, into spiritual practice. Your business life, as an educator, as a businessman, as a medical worker, whatever, as a politician, whatever you're doing, how can we spiritualize that? Instead of dividing our lives into secular life and spiritual life. So spiritualization of the whole of life, especially work life, karma yoga. This was the Vivekananda's great teaching, a sort of modern presentation of thousands of years of Vedantic wisdom. That the goal of life is to manifest the divinity already within us. What's that? Sat-Chit-Ananda, to manifest it. How do you do it? You do it by philosophical inquiry, the way of knowledge. You do it by meditation. He says the way of Raja Yoga. In fact, the first book that Vivekananda wrote, you saw the picture, Vedanta Society of New York. The first book that Vivekananda wrote was Raja Yoga, a commentary on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. How by meditation we can come to see our real nature. And then Bhakti Yoga. You can do it by love, Bhakti Yoga. You can do it by service, by the yoga of good works, Karma Yoga. By one or more or all of these and be free. That is all of religion. Books, temples, doctrines, churches. This is Vivekananda's words. Books, temples, doctrines, churches are but secondary details. Vivekananda saw the great importance of Vedanta in the sense he based all of ethics on Vedanta. Just see the application of Vedanta. That he says, why should one be good? What is the justification for morality, for ethics? The principle of ethics is there in every religion. It's called the golden rule. To treat others as you would have them treat you. And it's found in every religion. In the Bhagavad Gita itself, you find that yogi is the best yogi who sees the sufferings of others as one's own suffering, the joys of others as one's own joys. That's the best yogi. This is called the golden rule. You find it in every religion. If you go to New York, the United Nations headquarters, third floor, if you go, there's a big on one wall, rock carving. The golden rule in all religions, that to treat others as you would have them treat you. But Vivekananda says Vedanta gives you the reason why. Why should I treat others well? I want them to treat me well, but I may not treat you well. And then Vivekananda says, because the others are not others. Vedanta shows us it is one unbroken ocean of existence, consciousness, bliss. What we are doing to the other is actually what we are doing to ourselves, just unknowingly. So if we send out hatred, dislike, exploitation into the world, it will come back and bite us again. It is not just it might happen, might no, it will happen. This is reality. We are living our lives in a sort of dream world. The reality is oneness. Diversity is an appearance of that oneness. So ethics, Vivekananda grounded it in Vedanta. Harmony of religions, Vivekananda grounded it in Vedanta. He said, the demand today is for a rational religion, a religion which will satisfy all the demands of reason. It's something that you can take to the greatest skeptic if they have an open mind, if the greatest atheist, if they have an open mind, it will work and they will see at least some merit in it. I had occasion to speak with Sam Harris. Some of you may have heard of him. He's called one of the militant atheists. But he says in his book, there are at least two traditions, the ancient tradition of Advaita Vedanta, non-dual Vedanta, and the Tibetan Buddhist tradition of Dzogchen Buddhism, where nobody can deny that there is a core of truth in these two approaches. Who is this leading atheist of the world? So Vivekananda, more than 100 years ago, he says Vedanta can satisfy the questions of, at least the core of Vedanta, can satisfy the questions of atheists, skeptics, most rigorous intellectual test. It can be the basis for service. We saw Atmano Mokshartham Jagatitaya, for one's own liberation and for the welfare of the world. So this is the expanse of Vedanta today, and it talks about most meaningful life. I'll end with encounter that Vivekananda had with a skeptic, an agnostic in America, a very famous man at that time, Robert Ingersoll. Yes. Ingersoll is a well-known speaker. There is a Yale University Press has written a book, released a book recently, The Great Agnostic. So he said to Vivekananda, he met Vivekananda, he said to Vivekananda, I don't believe in all this religion and spirituality. This life is all that we are certain of. So I want to squeeze the orange of life and get every drop out of it. Vivekananda said, I believe that same thing too, but I know a better way of squeezing the orange. He said, I know I cannot die, therefore I am not in a hurry. I have no fear. I can love all beings as God. Imagine the joy of loving everybody as God, as divine. Squeeze your orange in this way, get 10,000-fold more, get every single last drop. This is Vivekananda. Thank you very much for giving me a patient hearing. Thank you so much. We will do the Q&A. I think I'll do it from there if that's okay. Is it possible to get some more light in the hall, like switch on the hall lights? If you can. Now I can, so that I can see you. Yes. There are microphones on this side. Please raise your hand so that they can see you. You have to come to the is on both sides. On this side also there's a microphone? Yes. Tell us your name and ask a pointed question. Yes. I can hear you, yeah. Yes.
It's unprecedented times. In the greatest of democracies, we find ourselves sandwiched between authoritarianism and artificial intelligence that can potentially commoditize what many of us do.
Yes.
The world is torn apart by strife and turbulence and war. So in these times, how does one harness the Sat-Chit-Ananda within oneself and transcend fear, contradiction, transformation?
Two things. One is that, this has always been the case. We think this is very extraordinary because, especially the culture we live in, the news cycles are so short. Our focus is always on what's happening right now. And oh, it's so terrible. There's never been trouble like this. But in the Vedanta Society in New York, the senior most member is Bill Conrad. He's 100 years old this year. And he fought in the Second World War. You see, in the Second World War, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and so the invention of the atom bomb, man going to the moon, and he was one of the first in New York to be infected when in our Vedanta circles by COVID. I thought he was done for. He was elderly, got COVID. He got it thrice. He came back each time. Thousands passed away in New York daily. So imagine what he has seen in his life. Would he say, oh, out of all that I've seen, today is the worst day of my life? No, I don't think so. So that's one thing. But that does not mean that this is not unprecedented, because there are things today which were not there earlier. Very, like AI, for example, and many amazing things. Francis Fukuyama, at the end, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, he wrote The End of History. Boy, was he wrong. So yeah, it's a good question. And I think one of the greatest things that Vedanta can bring to the table is this grand view of human nature. If you are literally the infinite, will you be afraid of a few ups and downs in life? No. You'll be like that camel. How many war drums have been beaten on my back? Am I going to have Tina se darunga main? So we will not be afraid. We will not hate, because we are one. Whom will you hate? Vivekananda says, praiser praised, blamer blamed are but one. Whom to praise, whom to blame? So with that sense of oneness, still you have a sense of what is good and what is bad. And we must continue to work out what is good and resist what is bad, and do it without any sense of enmity or hatred. Only out of a sense of oneness with everybody. And no fear at all. No fear at all. Whom will you be afraid of? What will you be afraid of? You are immortal. Literally so. Yes, thank you so much. Good question. Yes, on that side.
Swami, understand existence.
Tell us your name.
My name is Sina. Existence is everywhere. I understand that because you can see the chairs and space and everything. But how to understand that consciousness is everywhere? Because chair is not having consciousness, so table is not.
Yes.
The same thing for the beast too.
That's a good question. When you say existence is everywhere, that seems to be literally true. Because everything exists. Here you are in ocean. You give a nice example like ocean made of water. Similarly, an ocean of existence. Yeah, even empty space exists. So existence is everywhere, but consciousness doesn't seem to be everywhere. In fact, the only place where consciousness seems to be is here, in ourselves. And even more so, if you look very closely, if you're very particular, you will find consciousness in only yourself, not even others. Why? Just see now, where are you experiencing consciousness? Within yourself. Swami, what about all of them? Are you experiencing their consciousness? You are experiencing the body. You can see the body. You can listen to their language, what they are saying. You can watch their behavior. If you are a telepath, you can even see their thoughts. But you can never ever experience their consciousness. The way you are feeling conscious now, you can never experience consciousness as an object, because by definition, consciousness is not an object. It is the essence of the subject. So therefore, you can never experience consciousness apart from yourself. So the question is very valid. How would you say there's an ocean of consciousness? No, there's an ocean of matter, of energy, of time, of space. And you can claim, if you want to say it's all existence, you can claim that also. But how can Sri Ramakrishna say it's an ocean of consciousness? How? All right. This requires a little different way of thinking. Suppose you were, walking along in a park or with your friend, and you see the lake and the sky and the people walking dogs and stuff like that. And you say, yeah, so here is existence. The Swami told me about everything, living and non-living. But consciousness is only there in me, right? They're all outside me, and I'm experiencing existence in these ways. But I am only conscious. And the next moment you wake up, sit up in your bed. Oh, that was a dream. And none of them, the friends, the dogs and the sky and the lake, the body also, none of it was outside my mind. It was the dreaming mind which generated all of it. And in that dream world, there was a subject and an object. And the subject seemed to be conscious, and the object seemed to be just existence. But when I wake up, I realize both subject and object were dreamt up by the mind. Now, this is an example. Vedanta says, it makes a huge claim. Right now, everything is not only in existence, it's also in consciousness. The same Bill Conrad I mentioned, he's a physicist. So he said, Swami, it's not true that consciousness is outside there. No, the world exists and we are conscious beings, we come and experience the world. The world is not in your consciousness. The world is outside. And it's a common sense approach. That's the materialistic approach. So, and he said, I will prove it to you, Swami. I will put a camera here, and then we will go out of the room, then we will come back into the room, and I will show you the camera with the pictures of empty room. So the room existed. No conscious being. You were not there, I was not there. We came back and we saw the picture of the empty. It proves that the room existed outside your consciousness. Not only when you are seeing it. I said to him, Bill, in your awareness, consciousness, in your awareness, you designed this experiment. In your awareness, you said, Swami, let's go out of the room. In your awareness, you said, Swami, now let's come back into the room. In your awareness, you said, Swami, look at the picture of the empty room. In your awareness. At which point did you step outside your awareness? Even when I say, outside this hall, there is Dallas and there is Texas. And beyond Texas also something is there, though Texans don't agree. There is the United States and the world and the universe. And all of that is outside your, you don't know it, you don't see it. It's all beyond, you don't know anything about it. Right now, here also, you just see this, but you don't see atoms, you don't see bacteria. So they are all outside your knowledge. Outside knowledge is one thing and outside consciousness is another thing. This is another very interesting distinction. Think about it. The question might be, if everything is in consciousness, I should know everything. But no. Known and unknown, both are appearances in consciousness. Tell me, right now, if you say there is a vast unknown universe, I agree with you. This vast unknown universe, who is saying it? Where are they saying it? In consciousness only. People ask, your consciousness and all that, it's a late comer. Evolution, billions of years, Big Bang, billions of years, then planet Earth, then life, evolution, human beings, and higher animals, nervous systems, then only consciousness has emerged. Where was consciousness all these billions of years? This idea of the universe existing for billions of years without consciousness, where is it being proposed here? In consciousness. What is, so doesn't this go absolutely contrary to science? No. Science will tell you that life evolved over billions of years, millions of years. And these living beings have evolved like this. And now these are conscious living beings. But suppose, as Vedanta claims, consciousness is a fundamental reality that exists anyway, manifested through nervous systems and brains. But it exists by itself, like time, space, matter, energy, fundamental reality of the universe. Suppose consciousness is like that. Then consciousness does not depend upon evolution, does not even depend upon living beings. Is it possible? There are people who are taking it seriously now. Vedanta said it thousands of years ago. There are people who are taking it seriously now. I've been talking to some who are scientists, some who are philosophers. Theories of panpsychism, all of these things are coming up now. So consciousness is fundamental, and the universe appears in consciousness. Therefore, the universe is everywhere. I mean, the consciousness is everywhere in that sense. Yes.
Thank you, Swamiji, for explaining the concepts of Vedanta. I basically wanted to address 2 points that you made during.
Tell us your name. Yes.
Oh, yes. My name is Rick. And I wanted to address 2 points. The first thing you mentioned about how atheistic Christians have also acknowledged that Vedanta is a universal philosophy that is consistent with other religions and other beliefs.
Yeah.
And then also the fact that Swami Vivekananda brought his ideas out west because he believes it was more egalitarian and people would be able to perceive it in a similar way. So I was wondering, how do we contend with a different individual perception of divinity, like across religions? And then what would the resulting pressure or the actions of someone who understands Sat-Chit-Ananda look like? Across, let's say, the borders of religion as a person.
Yeah. 2 very good questions. One is about interfaith, the other one about spiritualizing action on the basis of Vedanta. Very good questions, big questions. I'll just make a couple of observations here. One is that this Vedantic perspective, the way it has been put by Ramakrishna and Vivekananda, one of the results actually is interfaith harmony. If you look at religions from the Vedantic perspective, then what are religions? The Vedantic perspective is you are already that, you have to realize it. Or you can make a variation of that. If you don't like that idea that I am consciousness, I am limitless Brahman, and I have to realize I am Brahman, don't like that idea. People who don't, they're mentally, their constitution is not for this, something else. So they might say, I am more comfortable with the idea of God. I want to love God. Sri Ramakrishna would say, ask people who came to him, do you want to be sugar or eat sugar, or taste sugar? Do you want to be sugar or taste sugar? Those who want to taste sugar, they are the lovers of God. Those who want to be sugar, they are, I am Brahman, the infinite existence consciousness place. Now, all of these religions will become paths to that reality. So instead of being in conflict with each other, they become paths to that reality. Paths are not in conflict. The path is meant to take you somewhere. Why should one path have a conflict with another path? So that's the Sri Ramakrishna's beautiful teaching. Jato mat tato pat. As many faiths, so many paths. Paths to God, to enlightenment, God realization. So Vedanta itself becomes one more path. Somebody asked me, you are saying this, but fanatics in other religions, will they accept it? My answer is, first you accept it. It is our position. Can I not have a position? A fanatic has a position. My religion is right. You're all wrong. So that's a position, and they have a right to have that position. Can we not have a position of our own? That the way I see my religion and your religion, I can have a view about your religion. The way I see your religion is that it's an equally valid path to enlightenment and freedom. So that's interfaith harmony. And it's not just theoretical. Sri Ramakrishna actually practiced a form of Christianity, a form of Islam, multiple forms within Hinduism, and he came to the conclusion they all work and they all lead to the highest. Then the second one is a very great and underappreciated teaching. Slowly it's becoming clear now. We need a spiritual philosophy of work. If you separate work from spirituality, both will suffer. Work takes up so much of our time and energy, more than ever before. People are very busy. If you leave spirituality out of life, out of work, then there will be very little time and energy left over for spirituality, because your time and energy is taken up by work. And if you remove divorce Spirituality from work will after some time seem meaningless. You'll see, I've seen very enthusiastic youngsters, interns and all, Wall Street, working 16 hours, 14 hours. And why? We are young, that's all. Wait for 5 years. They'll say it's all meaningless, it's useless. Same job, same 14-hour. So after some time, you begin to see $1 more million, 2 million, 3 million, 10 million, or one more promotion, one more award, one more whatever. It doesn't add anymore, diminishing marginal utility. But if it is a method, a yoga, my job is a yoga for me personally to take me to enlightenment, then amazing. It will have meaning for me regardless of what's happening externally. Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Shupal. Thank you for a great talk today. My question is actually the definition of the word that you mentioned quite a few times in the last answer. I would like to, so I've got two questions. One is, what is enlightenment? What is that state feel like?
Yeah.
And if you want to pursue that, how do you set up some goals where you know, okay, you're making some progress towards that? Because
Yeah.
I know it can take maybe multiple lives, or I'm not even sure what that state is, so I would like
Yes.
to know how do you define that?
Yes. So enlightenment, that's a good question. What exactly, can you precisely define enlightenment? Notice the definition will change from path to path, but you're asking me, and I'm going to give an answer from the path of non-duality, Advaita Vedanta. There the definition is very clear. The definition of enlightenment in Advaita Vedanta is the realization, I am Brahman. Right now, if I feel, I am this guy, this person, this body, this mind, these thoughts, this story, this is who I am, that's all. Nothing more than this. I'm a biological being. I'm a psychological being. I'm an economic or social being, and that's it. But when Vedanta says you are a spiritual being, and all these biological, social, economic, this is part of the mask. The realization that I am the spiritual being, it's an actual experience, and just like this is now an experience, that is also an experience, not a particular experience. When it dawns upon me, it will be available to me all the time. That I am this guy, Sarvapriyananda, it's available to me all the time. When I'm here, I'm Sarvapriyananda. If you ask me who are you, I'll say Sarvapriyananda. If nobody asks me, still I know I'm Sarvapriyananda. Not only that, it's effortless. I don't have to practice morning and evening being Sarvapriyananda, repeat a Sarvapriyananda mantra in case I forget. It's natural to us. To be this person is natural to us, effortless. When that becomes effortless, I am Brahman. Shankaracharya sings this beautiful hymn to 6 stanzas of Nirvana. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. I am bliss. I am consciousness. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. Not just singing, it's a fact. When Shankaracharya does that, he's reporting a fact. So that constitutes enlightenment. It's not a state. Whatever state comes, states come and go. Waking, dreaming, sleeping comes and go. Lives and deaths come and go. Psychological states, physiological states come and go, but that remains constant. So that constitutes enlightenment in Advaita Vedanta. There are similar, very few have such very clear and precise definitions. That's one of the beauties of Advaita Vedanta. Over centuries of dialectics, argumentation, precise definitions. You see how beautiful it is if you can summarize the entire thing in one sentence. Tattvamasi. That was the question, right? Yes, thank you. What's your name?
My name is Vatanam. This has been a burning question for me, so I thought move to answer this question. After Vedanta, I got more confused learning about Vedanta because having grown up in India and the Hindu way of life, I just want to see so many forms of the divine.
So many forms of?
The divine.
Yes.
So when we go to the temple, we see so many forms, so many beautiful forms, no doubt, but
to reconcile that with the teachings of Vedanta, Science, and Sat-Chit-Ananda. It's been very close.
That is, the question is a good question, but the answer is pretty easy actually. The answer is that Sat-Chit-Ananda, the ultimate reality. Where is that ultimate reality right now? It's there, here. This is what it looks like right now. Because here is existence. All these things exist. And you experience consciousness. And we are seeking meaning and bliss. Now, the idea is that Sat-Chit-Ananda is also Saguna Brahman or Ishvara or God. And it can, because it is essentially formless and attributeless, it can take on multiple forms and attributes, and that's how we worship God. So across in Hinduism, as Shiva, as Kali, as Durga, as Narayana, Vishnu, as the avatars, Rama, Krishna, and other avatars, so Sri Rama, Krishna. So as many faiths, so many paths, as many forms, one reality. One reality taking on multiple forms. So that's the beauty, that Vedanta can harmonize all this. It's not that one form is real and one name is real, others are all false. No. All of them are real. Because the ultimate reality is beyond form and beyond attribute, and it can take on all of these attributes and forms. Sri Ramakrishna gave the example of the water and the iceberg. In the ocean, he says, it's all water if that's formless. But he says, because of intense cold in some places, it coalesces into icebergs. And they have all forms, and all the forms are different, but they're all the same water. It's a beautiful example. Water, formless in itself, kind of formless, and can take on multiple forms and remaining exactly the same. So all that you worship in the Hindu temples, all of them are different forms of the same divine. And therefore they demand our worship and respect. And as Hindus, we also have something called, the Ishta Devata, the particular form in which we worship, each one of us. Some are Vaishnavas, some are Shaivites, some are Shaktas. And so that gives you focus. How many will you worship? So there has to be one. There's formless Brahman in this form as the Divine Mother Kali for Sri Ramakrishna. For him, Brahman and Kali are the same. Yes, thank you.
Namaste Swamiji, my name is Raj Asava. I am with Angarita. My question to you, first of all, your discourse was mesmerizing. Thank you so very much for being here with us and enlightening us all. Lots of gems I picked up in your discussion, in your presentation. One thing I'm still struggling with is you talk about oneness.
Yes.
Right? Seeing that we are all part of one consciousness, etc. Yet in Ashtavatara Gita, they talk about अगर आपको मुक्ति चाहिए तो विषयों को विष की तरह त्याग दीजिए. So you talk about detachment. So how can we have oneness and detachment?
Yes.
In this universe?
True. Good question. How can you have oneness and detachment? And detachment, renunciation, tyaga is actually central. Good that you brought it up. Vivekananda was quite uncompromising on this. So is Shankaracharya and others, and Buddha and all others, great spiritual masters within Hinduism, outside and all. Vivekananda says in one place, renunciation is the turning point. And he gives renunciation, tyaga, renunciation in karma yoga, renunciation in bhakti, renunciation in meditation, raja yoga, and renunciation in jnana yoga. What is renunciation in karma yoga? It's just giving up all our selfish motives and, for the welfare of other beings. So from selfish to selfless, that's a huge renunciation. Then in bhakti yoga, giving up, as I said, all the hundreds of worldly desires, you convert it into one great desire, that is the love of God. I want only God. That is the renunciation of the bhakti yogi. Renunciation of a Raja Yogi, of the meditator, Patanjali Yogi, Raja Yogi says, I renounce all worldly experiences, at least the time of meditation. Eyes want to see, ears want to hear, nose want to smell, tongue wants to taste, skin wants to touch, mind wants to think. Imagine all of it. No, no, no. Stop. That is the renunciation of the Raja Yogi. And the renunciation of the Advaita, Jnana Yogi is highest. From the very beginning, you must say the whole world is an appearance. Brahman alone is real. So renunciation is central. You quoted from Ashtavakra Gita, the very first verse of Ashtavakra Gita. Mukti michhasi chet tata vishayan vishavatyaja. My child, if you want liberation, freedom, give up the objects of the senses like poison. It's a play on word visha. If it is all one reality, why give up? Remember, this giving up is at the beginning. We are already so enmeshed in the world of appearances. That is the reason why Brahman is hidden from us. See, if Brahman was, to get something, you must give up something. Your attention, our attention is so fixed on the world that we can't give the attention to God. That is why devotion is necessary. In Advaita, the problem becomes even more acute because what you are looking for is right here. It's oneness. But if you see the Vishayas, the objects, as object of my greed, as object of my lust, as object of my anger, there is no chance of oneness. So I dismiss the appearances so that the reality which is right there, because it is one, that can be discovered. If the rope is appearing as the snake, it is no use looking for rope elsewhere. You must give away the snake, give up the snake. You must take your attention away from the snake, investigate. So you must say, not snake, rope. Similarly, when we realize that it is all Brahman after this investigation, then we'll realize what is Vishaya is also Brahman. All these are also Brahman. When I say not this neti neti and find out Brahman, Sri Ramakrishna put it very beautifully. He said the man climbed a house, first floor, second floor, giving it up, and went to the roof of the house. And he discovered at the roof what the roof is made of. The same lime, the brick, dust, concrete, wood. The first floor, second floor, all of this which had given up is made of the same thing. Then oneness is established. But in the beginning, he has to rise to the top. From the beginning, if you say, oh, it is all one, it's all Brahman, then why do you bother? Then what will happen is we'll remain as materialists. Because we have not discovered Brahman yet. We live in a world of not oneness, manyness, in a fractured world. I and you, me and this, aham idam, I and this. This must disappear when I investigate, dismiss the Vishaya. If I remain engrossed in the Vishaya, the underlying reality will never appear to me. Once it appears, then you are right. In everything that you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, imagine, think, feel, taste, and all of these experiences, you will find one thing only. So is it all right? Then I can do whatever I like? No. At that point, you will not feel like it anymore. You will see one notion in what is seen pleasurable, in what seems painful. Samatvam. Nirdosham hi samam brahma. Everywhere, one homogeneous Brahman everywhere. One limitless existence, consciousness, bliss. No longer will I have, this is tasty, this is awful. This person is nice, that person is very bad. In worldly sense, you will be careful. Where people are different persona, masks they're putting on. Villain, hero, and all that. But behind it, same actor. My beloved Krishna is there. My beloved Kali is there. Same actor. Yeah. Thank you.
Hello, Swami. First of all, my name is Sanjay Richard, and I want to thank you. Hearing the word Brahman from you makes the word much more exuberant for me, that much more grand for me. I actually had a very experiential question. This is regarding meditation. I'm trying to understand the concept of able to experience Brahman in meditation. And what I understand is the cessation of thoughts is when there are no thoughts in your state of meditation, is when you experience Brahman. But isn't it paradoxical that the entire experience is actually recorded by the ego through memory and intellect? How would then the ego can ever say that I have experienced God?
Yes, the ego can never say that. Ego can never, you're right, ego can never say that. There's a beautiful saying, The person will never get freedom, but you can be free of the person. You can be free of the mask. The mask will never get freedom. Similarly, the ego will never realize I am Brahman. That is impossible. But what is beyond the ego, the witness of the ego, the real you. See, if I am the ego, I can never realize I am Brahman. But if I am not the ego is just a mask which I am putting on, Brahman is putting on, then it is possible. I will realize, first of all, I am not the ego. Then I will realize I am Brahman. Shankaracharya, see the first line of that 6 stanzas of Nirvana. Mano buddhya hankara chittani naham. I am not the mind. I am not the intellect. I am not the memory. I am not the ego. Ahankara na aham. You see the words? Then only has he a right to say Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. That ego, which is I am not that ego. Then the one which says I am Shiva, I am consciousness. Who is saying that? Not the ego. Consciousness is saying it. Shiva is saying it. Of course, through the ego body mind. For example, if you say, I am happy. Now, who actually said it? The tongue said it. But is the tongue happy or the mind happy? The happiness is in the mind, not in the tongue. But the mind cannot directly say it. It is the tongue's job to speak. So the tongue says, I am happy, makes us, but it refers to the mind. Similarly, when you say, I am Brahman, it seems the ego is speaking, but it refers to something beyond the ego. Yes. Yes. Yes, because we have a hard stop coming up. Let's listen to the question.
This is Vijay Chaudhary. Thank you for being here in this. So nice to see you here. I have a very short question. Is it even possible to realize one full potential as a Brahman, or maybe a God realization, while fulfilling the duties of life? And how?
Yes, straight answer. Remember, it's monks are specialized monastic life. It's only for spiritual life. But Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishads which I mentioned, teacher is a householder, the student is a householder, Krishna is a householder, Arjuna is a householder. That is why I think deliberately it has been put that way, so that it is possible. It is difficult, but it is possible. It is not possible, it would be meant only for a handful of specialists. It is possible for everybody. Why? Because you are Brahman. I'm a householder, I'm a monk. That is the persona. But actually you are Brahman. How long will it take? How long it takes? It's like asking, how long will the wave take to become water? How long? Instantly. Because you are it. Only difference is knowledge and ignorance. Shankaracharya says in one place, Jnana Jnanayoho Upapattehe. Because the difference of knowledge and ignorance makes the whole thing possible. So when you know what water is, the wave is water. If you don't know it, the wave will take many lives of waves I have to pass before I realize I am water. One monk, somebody asked a question here. Many lifetimes it will take. Yes and no. One monk was asked this in Hindi, that Bahut Janma, Bhagavad Gita itself says, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanaman Mam Prapadyate. At the end of many lifetimes, the one who has knowledge worships me as the one reality everywhere. So many lifetimes. Bahunam, you can't cut those words down, they're Gita. That monk gives such a beautiful reply. He said, in Hindi I'll tell you and then translate, यही वही जन्म है महात्मा जी, यही वो जन्म है. This is that life, that final life. This is that life. Yes, you must have that conviction. Why not? This is that life. I want it in this life, I will get it. This is the greatest thing, I must have it. This is what all these lives are meant for. If I want it, I'll get it. This is that life. यही वो जन्म है महात्मा जी. Last? Yes. Yes, please.
Thank you. My name is Lola, and so thank you for
summarizing some starting with these topics in a sort of short time. You mentioned Vedanta, right? So there's lots of universities that were around 4,000 years ago, not in that era. You mentioned a few in your talk today. It happened to be near Harvard and Columbia. How do we continue from there? If you want to go deeper, we talk about experience, we talk about Vedanta, behind it, you mentioned meditation. Are there schools that still teach this deep science for organizations like this?
Yes. How do you do that? It's not as organized as that, luckily. I always say Hinduism is the world's largest disorganized religion. So you have many, many teachers in Vedanta, especially. You have many, many teachers. And today, thanks to this modern technology, it's all right there. So I would say, first of all, take up the texts themselves, the Upanishads, the Gita, Brahma Sutras later on, and smaller texts which go directly to the point. Drigdrishya Vivek, Aparoksha Anubhuti, Atma Bodh, Vivek Chudamani, Panchadashi, and begin your study and see in this whole range of teachers whose explanations, whose teachings strike you well. I mean, it sort of matches with you. And then develop a personal practice. You must have, there's something called upasana. It's not just jnana, that knowledge, there's worship. So personal meditation, a personal deity. For that, I would request you to contact the Vedanta Society here. They have occasional initiation ceremonies. Those are very useful for your personal practice. Yes, make a beginning. I would thoroughly recommend that you start by reading the works of Vivekananda. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.